This morning, this being March and Woman History Month, I'm reading from The Hidden Lamp, Stories from 25 Centuries of Awakened Women, and I've picked today's case to be Chiyono's No Water, No Moon, from Japan, 13th century. The story goes, Chiyono was a servant in a Zen convent who wanted to practice zazen. One day she approached an elderly nun and asked, "I am of humble birth. I can't read or write and must work all the time. Is there any possibility that I could realize the way of Buddha even though I have no skills?" The nun answered her, "This is wonderful, my dear. In Buddhism, there are no distinctions between people. There is only this: each person must hold fast to the desire to awaken and cultivate a heart of great compassion. People are completely as they are. If you don't fall into delusive thoughts, there is no Buddha and no sentient being. There is only one complete nature. If you want to know your true nature, you need to turn toward the source of your delusive thoughts. This is called zazen." Chiyono said with happiness, "With this practice as my companion, I have only to go about my daily life, practicing day and night." After months of wholehearted practice, she went out on a full moon night to draw some water from the well. The bottom of her old bucket, held together by bamboo strips, suddenly gave way, and the reflection of the moon vanished with the water. When she saw this, she realized a great realization. Her enlightenment poem was this: "With this and that, I tried to keep the bucket together, and then the bottom fell out. Where water does not collect, the moon does not dwell." Study questions. Where does the moon go when its reflection disappears? Where do we go when we let go completely? In this case, the old servant, who was just a servant in a convent in Zen in the 13th century, went on to become one of a prominent Dharma heirs in Japan, and her Dharma name was Mugai no Dai. And she, in fact, is listed in our Dharma lineage female ancestry list. She's the 7th name down in our Japanese lineage of our women ancestors that we read every other day during sesshin. So this is one of our women Dharma ancestors from the Japanese tradition from the 13th century. She starts out as a servant who can't read and is of humble birth and works all the time. And there she is serving nuns in a Japanese monastery, women ordained, and wonders is there any chance for her to realize the way of the Buddha? And she's kindly told by an elder sister that, of course, you have an opportunity to practice the way even while doing your samu or work meditation. And there are no distinctions between rich and poor and literate and illiterate or male or female or any other division that we might make amongst ourselves, that the way of awakening, wisdom, and compassion is open to everyone. She was happy to hear this and understood that if she lost all of her delusive thoughts in her samu work and occasional zazen, that she too was entirely qualified, even as a servant, illiterate, humbled birth servant, to fully realize the way of the Buddhas and the ancient masters. Fully realize. After a few months of wholehearted practice, she went out, as she must have often done, to fill her bucket, to draw water from the well, to serve in various capacities for the monastery. And this old bucket had been held together by bamboo strips and kind of stitched together with string and must have been already a bit leaky, but still functional. But on this night, even when seeing the reflection of the moon in the pail, imagine at night there's a full moon and you get a pail of water and it becomes still enough that you see the reflection of the moon in it. And she's carrying this bucket back to the monastery, and the bamboo strips give out and the water falls away. And when she saw that the water fell away along with the image of the bright moon, she had a deep awakening and wrote this verse. With this and that, I tried to keep the bucket together, and then the bottom fell out. Where water does not collect, the moon does not dwell. Evidently, whoever was leading the monastery was so impressed by this experience of the servant and her awakening poem that she must have been then allowed into the monastery proper, and with continued training ended up becoming the abbess of the very monastery in which she was a servant, and recognized throughout Japan Dharma heir in her lineage of Zen. And now is chanted every other day when we do the Dharma lineage chant right here at Chobo-Ji. We all try to hold ourselves together in one way or another, not necessarily with string and bamboo strips, but we try to hold our lives together to be somewhat functional in this life, to be caring or creative or of service or just functional. And we do a lot to try to hold ourselves together in our identity or whatever roles we play, such as maybe being a parent or a teacher or a bus driver or a gardener or a doctor or a janitor, or any role or multiple roles that we try to demonstrate our functionality. And we try to hold ourselves together so that we are functional human beings. Unfortunately, we try to hold ourselves together and get so identified, maybe even over-identified with our roles and our functionality, that we lose our sense of communion with something broad, wide, deep, intimate, and infinite. And what happens when we fall apart? You know, when we're held together, we might be like that functional bucket that holds some water and does some service in the world. And occasionally, even when we look into the water of our life, we may see the moon reflected clearly and have some solace or sense of gratitude that we experience the wider world with some sort of awe, like the reflection of the moon on the water, even the water that we carry. In fact, we're all bags of water. Our physical beings are about 90% water. We're just walking bags of water. And occasionally, indeed, we see the light of the moon or awaken reflected within our little bag of water. But we all realize, whether we're young or old, that at a certain point, we're going to drop this body and our water will return to the earth completely, along with the other elements. And we will all fall apart. And what will we be then? But even before we die a physical death, on occasion, we may fall apart while still walking in this life. And that falling apart might appear as a nervous breakdown or a psychotic break, or possibly a full-blown enlightenment or awakening experience. I have several roles in my life. I'm a parent, I'm a husband, I'm an abbot, a psychotherapist, I used to be a pilot, a software engineer. Lots of roles in which I worked to be functional and still work to be functional. Here I am wearing these robes and in this role as abbot of this temple, trying to hold the form of this practice together so that we can all see the reflection of the moon within the water that we hold. But even more than that, we have the possibility when sitting here on the cushion or getting up and doing our work of living daily life, that we might indeed, the bucket might just break and the water may just fall. And with it goes the reflection of the moon too. What are we then if there's really a break through the bottom of who we are? I think most everyone who's sat with me before for some time has heard me say that when we sit here on the cushion, we have the opportunity to die a great death. And that when I sit on the cushion, I try to visualize that through the connection of my tailbone, which is like a taproot into the center of Mother Earth, that There's a kind of literal spaciousness or opening through my black zafu, and that what pours down and out through my zazen practice is all of my worry and angst and depression and fear and doubt, and even my own attachment to my identity and my roles and my positions and my functionality. And I try to let it all just wash down and wash away, peeling it away one breath at a time, sit after sit, day after day, year after year. And occasionally, rarely, but occasionally, it's not just a drain. It's like the bucket breaks and everything leaves. Everything leaves. My entirely attachment to this life leaves. And we say in the Heart Sutra, Gyate, Gyate, Paragyate, Parasamgyate, Boji, Soaka, Hanya Shinkyo. Gone, gone, completely gone. And miraculously, since I'm still breathing and I haven't dropped this body physically, after such an event, here, now, fully awake. Now what? Here, now, fully awake, with no attachment to this life, no attachment to functionality, no attachment to personal identity, no attachment to role, no attachment even to the image of the moon reflected in my own interior. Now what? Drawing a new breath, how will this peculiar, particular, unique form that's identified as Genjo in many other ways live this day? If I've really let go of this life and this identity and all of the ways of the roles in which I'm functional, I've died, but I'm still breathing. How will I live this day? With this and that, I tried to keep the bucket together. We all tried to do that. But one day, whether you like it or not, the bucket will fall out. Where the water does not collect, no sense of identity collects, no sense of role collects, no sense of purpose collects, no sense of meaning collects. Not even the moon does not dwell. How then do we live this day? It's an unknown. And yet there is a word that springs to mind. Heart-mind. That anyone who's had such an experience will automatically know. This doesn't matter where you started from, or where you trained, or how long you trained, or what role or functionality you've played in the world. If you come across this bucket bottom breaking experience. You too won't know how to live this day except by this one word, love. When you no longer have anything to lose, and this day is a total gift, and you've transcended all of your functionality and all of your problems and all of your identities and all of your roles, the only way we can proceed is with love. A caring heart mind. The study question says, where does the moon go when its reflection disappears? I'll respond, I don't know. Where do we go when we let go completely? I don't know that either. But wherever it is, undoubtedly, it will be with love.
Should